We don't want to do this.
No, we have to. This is our only shot. Just gotta be really quiet. Don't make a sound. Whatever happens, just don't make a sound.
Surveillance horror is a subgenre that plays on the fear of being watched. It's a fear that has grown more real in the age of security cameras, social media, and digital tracking. Some horror movies that have used surveillance cameras to push the plot forward are Disturbia, P2, and 13 cameras. The film we are looking at today, called Vacancy 2007, strips away supernatural elements and instead focuses on realistic technical threats that invade someone's privacy, including their own freedom. Instead of the horror coming from someone chasing you with a machete in the middle of the woods, the terror comes from someone simply watching you, knowing your every move before you do. When David, played by Luke Wilson, and Amy's car, played by the lovely Kate Beckinsale, broke down, they have no other choice but to spend the night at a remote motel. The couple entertained themselves by watching low-budget slasher movies on TV until they realized that the horrifying images they see were recorded in the room in which they were staying. With hidden cameras capturing their every move, David and Amy needed to find a way out before they became victims in another series of snuff films. In the movie Vacancy, the real horror wasn't just the killers, it's the camera system itself. The film took place in an isolated motel, and the moment the couple realized they were being filmed, everything completely changes for them. Every room, every hallway, and every shadow was a potential viewing point. The surveillance system removed all safety for the couple, making even the act of hiding feel pointless. There was nowhere to hide from the killers. Before I go any further, we need to speak about our main characters, David and Amy, and how they ended up in the motel. David and Amy were a married couple who were on the verge of a divorce. They were traveling through rural America after attending a family gathering, but they were clearly emotionally distant from each other. Their conversations were very tense due to their loss of their child. Losing their child is something that neither openly discusses, but it was something that kept heavily hanging over their interactions. While driving late at night, they took a shortcut through a dark, empty road, and their car suddenly breaks down. With no cell service and no help in sight, they decide to walk to a nearby rundown gas station owned by a strange mechanic who offered to help them with their car earlier in the film, but completely failed at his job. Right next to the gas station, there was a motel. The two of them had no other place to go, and so they decided to stay at the Pinewood Motel for one night, since they couldn't get their car fixed and it was getting late. Let me also add that when they went inside the main room where the manager was, they heard screaming coming from where the manager was staying. The manager, whose name is Mason, told them that he was watching a horror movie since it gets pretty boring during this time at night. Later in the movie, they found out what Mason was really watching as they were trying to escape the masked killers. Ever since they got to the motel, things were very unsettling. The room was filthy, the manager was creepy, and there were also loud banging noises coming from the room next door. They tried to sleep it off, but David soon finds VHS tapes in their room. At first, they looked like they were low-budget horror films. As they watched the tape more closely, the couple realized that the tapes featured real murderers. The crazy part of it all was that they were all filmed in the exact same room where they were staying in. David also found the hidden cameras around the room, and it was time for them to escape the motel. They were being watched from the hidden cameras, with multiple killers outside ready to strike. The killers recorded their victims, tortured them, and then murdered them on camera. The grief and trauma that drove David and Amy apart was now overshadowed by a desperate need to survive. The killers watching them did not care about them. They just wanted to make them their next victims for their next snuff film. The terror reawakens their bond they had for one another. David's protective instincts started to kick in. He takes the lead in leading Amy as much as he could to escape the killers. Meanwhile, Amy became resourceful and fiercely determined, not only to just escape, but also to fight back. They tried escaping through the windows, calling the cops and searching for a way out, but every attempt was blocked or even sabotaged. Mason and the killers used the surveillance system to their advantage to remain one step ahead of David and Amy. What separated David and Amy from the previous victims is how they worked together. The trauma they'd buried now became for their survival. The most important part for their survival was that they started communicating again. In moments of crisis, they started trusting each other and making decisions as a team. They also started to adapt and use the motel's layout, secret tunnels, and even the killers' own surveillance cameras against them. During the climax of the film, David made Amy hide from the killers. He recognized that the killers kept using the hidden cameras and constantly monitoring their every movement, and so he understood that any exposure increases the risk of getting caught. David's choice was driven by the desperate need to protect Amy from harm, even if it meant putting himself in harm's way. Unfortunately, David gets injured in the process, and it seemed like he wasn't going to make it. But even in his weakened state, he continued trying to protect Amy. It was Amy's turn to help David out, since he was barely breathing, to get them out of the motel alive. She outsmarted the killers and refused to back down. Amy killed the last attacker and Mason. She was the one who ended the nightmare for both of them, and they made it out of the motel alive. Vacancy 2007 takes the concept of surveillance horror and it pushes it into an intense, realistic level. The terror didn't come from what was in front of you. It came from who or what is watching you behind the scenes.